Good evening. Soon you will have to decide on your future. In the next few months, we shall settle the constitutional arrangements for merger. In this series of broadcasts, I hope to tell you what merger means, why it's good for all of us, why it's coming, and why some people are deliberately creating trouble and difficulty over merger to prevent it from taking place. Everybody knows that merger is inevitable. The Tunku has said it, the PAP have said it, and the communists also admit that merger is inevitable. The inevitable is now happening. Some people can try to postpone the inevitable, but no one can stop it. The artificial division at the causeway is a temporary one, and it's only a matter of time before it is swept aside. No political party, no single person has dared to raise his voice against merger. But you will see that quite a number of political parties and persons are deliberately being difficult about the terms and conditions in order to frustrate and delay merger between our two territories for as long as they can. It's my duty to put all the facts before you so that you can decide in full knowledge of the truth. Merger is going to take place not just because it's the desire of the PAP or merely because it is the wish of the Federation Alliance government. It is as inevitable as the rising and setting of the sun. The two territories are so intertwined and interwoven in their economic, political, and military complex that no man can keep up the artificial barrier at the causeway for long. If merger does not come with the consent of the people of the two territories, then inevitably it will come by the use of force of one territory over the other, because each is vital to the survival of the other. Everyone knows the reasons why the Federation is important to Singapore. It's the hinterland which produces the rubber and tin that keeps our shop window economy going. It's the base that made Singapore the capital city of Southeast Asia. Without this economic base, Singapore would not survive. Without merger, without a reunification of our two governments and an integration of our two economies, our economic position will slowly and steadily get worse. Your livelihood will get worse. Instead of there being one unified economic development for Malaya, there will be two. The Federation, instead of cooperating with Singapore, will compete against Singapore for industrial capital and industrial expansion. In this competition, both will suffer. But Singapore will suffer more because we have less resources to fall back on. We have no rubber, no tin, no large landmass. For over 140 years, we have grown, developed, and prospered because we bought and sold for the Federation. Through Singapore, they imported what they wanted from the outside world. Through Singapore, they sold their rubber and tin. Merger means that there will be one integrated economic development, and the wasteful duplication of facilities in the two territories will come to an end. We have an international airport at Paya Lebar. The Federation is also building an enormous international airport costing $50 million near Kuala Lumpur. But no international airline wants to land his aeroplanes in 2 such short stops, 250 miles from each other. Again, we have an international rubber market in Singapore. The Federation was on the point of setting up their own rubber market to compete with Singapore and take away our business. With Singapore separated from the Federation, we shall be cutting each other's throats. Another example. Shell Company has just built an oil refinery at Pulau Bukom in Singapore. Shell is compelled by the artificial division between Singapore and the Federation to build one twice as big at Port Dickson in the Federation. There are numerous such examples. If we delay merger, Singapore will be restricted in its economic expansion. People here will get worse off with less income, less employment. They will drift back to the Federation. Half our population in Singapore has come from the Federation because of the prosperity of Singapore. If that prosperity disappears as a result of unequal competition with the Federation, the reverse process will take place and people will drift away from a stagnating Singapore to an expanding Federation. We cannot survive alone. If we delay merger, every one of us, no matter what you are, worker, hawker, clerk, technician, businessman, all will suffer. There'll be less business, there'll be less profits, there'll be less pay, and less jobs. Now, let me tell you why Singapore is vital to the Federation. There is no conceivable way in which Singapore can be completely cut off from the Federation. The Causeway and the Straits of Johor are not the Maginot Line. No iron, rubber, or coconut curtain is possible between us. What happens in Singapore must affect the Federation. And from Singapore, the Federation can be undermined. Singapore is vital to the security and the survival of the Federation. Let me give you an example. In 1960, when a Soviet mission came to Singapore to attend the ECAFE conference, there was a great deal of unhappiness in the Federation because the Russians wanted to set up a rubber buying mission in Singapore. For a rubber buying mission could very easily become a center for intensive political activity against the Federation. Singapore saw it just as an additional avenue of trade, but the Federation considered it a dangerous beginning of a communist offensive against them. This is a minor instance illustrating how vital Singapore is to the Federation's security. So, in any merger arrangement, the Federation must insist on security being under central government control. We have already reached agreement in principle. The Federation government considers it basic that external affairs, defense and security should be under the control of the central Pan-Malayan government. We, on the other hand, consider it essential that Singapore should have local autonomy on education and labor policies. Now, these seemingly non-controversial propositions have aroused a great deal of noisy protests from interested parties in Singapore. The most important interested party is the Malayan Communist Party, the MCP. They do not want to see security in the hands of the central government. They are an illegal organization, and with security in the hands of an anti-communist central government, They fear that they will be worse off. They are unable to make any official statements to the press or through other open channels of information. But they have their proxies. They have sympathizers and secret party members in the lawful political parties, in the trade unions, the cultural organizations, the old boys associations, who can make and do make appropriate noises on their behalf. Of course, these people have not been so foolish as to oppose merger openly. They have all agreed to merger on principle. But they want a different kind of merger, one in which security is not under the control of the central government. Or, if security has got to be in the hands of the central government, they ask for unreasonable and even impossible conditions, which they hope will frustrate merger. The communists, through their proxies, are therefore trying to cloud and confuse this merger issue in order that you may come to the wrong conclusion. It's necessary for us to tell you who are their proxies, what line they are taking, why they are taking this line, and what all this means to you. They will try to confuse you and prevent you from seeing their hand clearly by calling all this a smear. It's up to you to listen to all sides and then decide for yourselves. To put you in the picture, I shall have to tell you in my next talk a little of the background leading to our conflict with the communists over merger. Then you can see things in perspective. Then you can judge for yourself.